everyone, welcome to the Morningstar series Ask the Expert. I'm Emma Wall and I'm joined today by Freddie Ewer, investment consultant for Reddington. Hi Freddie.
Thank you very much for having me, Emma.
So this week we are focusing on back to basics financial education, and today is Pensions Day. Wanted to talk to you today about the challenges, the psyche challenges of saving for a pension, because if you're in your 20s, 30s, or even statistics show 40s, the idea of putting money away for something that is 20, 25, 30 years in the future until you see the benefit is a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, to start with, you're exactly right. It's a real challenge, and it's a challenge on a number of fronts. I mean, there's a lot of behavioural evidence behavioural finance evidence, in fact, that shows that it is very difficult for people to save. It's very difficult for them to say, well, I would rather have the money in 10, 20, 30, 40 years' time than have it today. And that's called present bias. So that's the first challenge. And the other challenge that I think we face is that young people entering the workplace have a whole ream of different priorities. So they're thinking about paying off their student loan, they're thinking about saving up for a flat, they're thinking about going on holiday. And most people, sort of talking to my friends and industry contacts, aren't thinking about putting money away in a pension. And that's a real challenge, because if they're not putting money away in a pension early, that compounds the problem, as we know. If you start saving early, the money can compound up and accrue over time. And if you wait, you're going to have to sacrifice big chunks of your salary for the latter part of your career. So I agree with you, it's a real problem that we're facing at the moment.
And with that starting early concept, I know that you co-founded Red Start, which goes into schools and talks about this. Is it about there's got to be a sea change in the psyche of the British people, well, not just the British people, but everyone, everywhere, of as catch them as children, get this sort of into their brains that it needs to be something that you start to do young, looking forward?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is, and the research is there to evidence that. As part of work that we did with Lord Hutton on our Age of Responsibility report, we worked with the Nudge Unit that used to be part of number 10 Downing Street and looked at exactly this problem. How do we nudge people to save more? And one of the conclusions that they came out with, that we need to make saving social. It needs to be social. It needs to be the done thing. And at the moment, it's really not. You hear about lots of people who, rather than taking their company contribution to their pension, will take it out as cash because they're saving for a mortgage, as we discussed earlier, or they want to go on holiday. And it needs to become the done thing. It can't become, it can't remain what is something that is perceived to be difficult and unattractive. It needs to become the social norm, and the research is really there to show that.
But that's a real challenge, because it's terribly un-British to talk about money. So you're saying now we have to go on Facebook and Twitter and say, hey, I just made auto contributions to my pension. Yeah,
exactly. That is the sort of challenge that we're facing, and it's part of this big shift onto the shoulders of individuals that we've seen with DC. Pensions used to be something that people didn't worry about because it was thought to be the responsibility of the government or the responsibility of their employer. The harsh reality is now, for the vast majority of employees, that responsibility sits on your shoulders. And it's taking time for that perception to become a reality, so people aren't thinking about it, they're not talking about it. And we need to change that. And there are other ways that we can encourage that. It's not just a sort of say it should be a social norm and it will become a social norm. We need to make it easy for people. So we need to make it easy for people to save. If you look at the sort of interfaces that sit on top of people's pensions at the moment and the postal communication they receive about their pension, it's very difficult to interpret, even for people who are financially savvy like yourself. For people that don't have any financial knowledge, that can't tell you the difference between an equity and a bond, the sort of paperwork that they're receiving is really difficult to comprehend.
Too much jargon.
Exactly, too much jargon, hard to read, so it just gets put to one side and ignored. And those kind of friction issues are, again, really well evidenced in the research that we've come across in our work. There are other things, other simple sort of behavioural things you can do. You can make it timely. So if you look at the evidence, people are far more likely to sign up to something new in January in the whole New Year's resolution spirit. So they're much more likely to sign up for the gym. They're much more likely to start saving more, to commit to saving more.
Freddie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emma.
This is Emma Wall for Morningstar. Thank you for watching.